right, so is it
Oh, yeah.
recording?
Yeah, we're good. We're live.
All
Should I
right,
hit you with
about fucking.
my bad here?
Dude, I'm digging this.
Yo, I gave you some intro music coming in too. Oh shit.
Mm. Well, since this is the first episode, nobody knows who the fuck we are. We should probably introduce ourselves. Don't you think that'd be a good idea?
Hell yeah. Well, who are you and what do you do?
I'm Seth, and I'm the guy that runs Culinary Anarchy. I've been a chef for over 30 years, traveled all over, got a couple of movies out, got a couple of movies, documentaries, same fucking thing. Couple of cookbooks out, shit like that. And then, who the fuck are you, and why should people care?
Oh, well, I'm Mike Wiltshire. I'm a tattooer from, I guess, Yorktown, Virginia is where I tattoo out of. I've been tattooing a little over 20 years professionally, a little bit longer, not professionally. But yeah, it's like you can, Seth can,
Oh, I can
but
definitely vouch for that.
oh yes.
So, for those that don't know, we've been friends for literally over 30 years.
Mhm.
Hung out in what, eighth grade, and we both traveled all over the place. Even though you're a tattoo artist and I'm a chef, I think we can both agree that there is a very, very strong amount of overlap within the two communities. Am I wrong about this at all?
Oh no, it's huge overlap, dude. To the point where last time that me and you walked into Smoke, I sat down up front and I immediately got asked how long I'd been in the industry, what restaurant do I work at? Like, I mean, to the
They
point
thought
where
you were a
like,
chef.
hell, you cannot exactly, or it's some back of the house kitchen, fucking yeah. But yeah, it's funny. Like we look to the point where yeah, we look alike. Like you can't tell the
Oh,
difference
yeah.
between a tattooer and a chef anymore.
Well, and one of the things that when I was working, you and I just did this big event down in New Orleans. We did my book release. We also did the New Orleans Tattoo Convention. The full article on that is getting ready to come out. But one of the things that I mentioned about these tattoo artists, and you were there, you saw it. Everybody's seen these, stupid cooking TV shows where like the person will be finishing up until the buzzard and they're like running towards the judges. Tell
Yeah,
me the same shit did not happen that Sunday with all these dudes doing these like, 12, 14, 18-hour portraits that are absolutely gorgeous, but like they were literally touching him up until the very fucking last second and running him
yeah.
up to the
Which
stage.
which lets you know that they're just as finished as they could get until that timeline. That was not the
Well, it's like seeing the madness in their eyes. I'm like, yeah, there ain't no fucking difference, man. There is no difference between you and me. You just happen to use a tattoo machine, and I happen to use a knife. But other than that, we're working with flesh. We have this like neurotic obsession with our craft, and I think too, correct me if I'm wrong on this, especially over the past, I'd say what, 15, let's say 20 years, there's been a major uptick in posers because of media, because of these stupid cooking shows, because of these stupid TV shows that are supposed to be reality shows, which let's face it, they're absolutely not. But you get a bunch of these people in here that love the idea of it, but within 5 years they're out of the industry. They can't hack it, and yeah, for me it's caused a lot of headaches. I don't know about you, but I'd love to
yeah,
hear
that's
your
actually
thoughts
that's
on it.
actually a pretty hot topic with the tattoo industry right now, I believe, or has been for a while, is the oversaturation issue because yeah, TV made it look cool. And then the amount of people that like would start coming in and being like, oh, my kid does terrible in school, blah blah blah. They would make a great tattooer. And you're trying to, keep a straight face, and you're like, man, if your kid's not doing very good in school, it's be a terrible fucking industry for him. Like, he can't pay attention and can't do shit for himself. This is not. Yeah. But yeah, people just got a weird idea of what tattooing was. I think because it's. I'm sure it is a lot of different things. So yeah, the end rate it got saturated for sure. I guess is the short of it. It's got good sides and bad sides. The bad sides are that now I know in my area in particular, before, man, I want to say before like the tattoo TV show or popular type, even just like the YouTube type channels made it super popular. or more popular. Maybe like 10 shops in this whole area. Like now, if you Google search it, it stops at 50. Roll down. Like I know there's at least 70 in this like little section here, and that's an insane amount of saturation from when I first started. And
Oh God, yeah.
I'm not saying that it didn't spawn a bunch of really good tattooers and almost like a renaissance period. It had some good sides to it too. I'm not knocking the whole thing. And the fact that the general public became so much more accepting of the ideas of tattoo.
Yes.
And I mean, because to be honest, like if it wasn't for that, it wouldn't be so acceptable in a lot of different workplaces. And especially, I mean, like even areas where tattoos always been popular, but let's be honest, like they used to make police officers wear these crazy long, like covering your entire
Oh
arm.
yeah.
Here in the summer, it's 80, 90, sometimes 100 degrees. It's not safe,
Oh,
but
I
they would make
remember.
they had visible tattoos. Now, luckily, they don't have to do that. Like, or there's a lot of, that's just one example. But
Well, I mean, what one thing that definitely comes to mind, and I think you definitely did hit a really good point with this in the fact that, yeah, these TV shows and things like that kind of did oversaturate it, but
there's
I
good
think that
sides
it
to it.
also it did help to educate the public and raise
Very much
awareness
so.
of the art
At least
form on both cooking and tattooing.
the
But
difference between good, yeah, an acceptable, nice tattoo or good food versus like some crap you shouldn't pay for.
well, but it's funny because I also remember, I think this was like probably shit 2 3 years ago. I had a friend of mine that was like, "Hey, my kid's 17. He's thinking about going to culinary school and becoming a chef. Will you talk to him?" And I pretty much did everything I could to convince this kid to not go.
Hmm.
And this dude was like, "Why were you such an asshole?" And I'm like, first off, I wasn't an asshole. Okay. I didn't belittle him. I didn't try. But if I can talk him out of going and wasting 2 years at culinary school in
Yeah.
15 minutes, then guess what? You should be thanking me because I just saved your ass about 100 grand for him to go to a school for something that he's not going to stick with. And if I can talk him out of this shit in 15, same
Yeah.
thing when it comes to tattooing. If I could talk somebody out of getting a tattoo, then guess what? They should have never gotten that fucking tattoo to begin with. And
Oh
if you
yeah.
can sit and talk to me about the industry for 15 minutes and you still want to do it, then you might have a chance at actually being able to not only hack it in the industry, but be able to thrive in it. Because let's face it, same thing, cooking, tattooing, you have to be slightly fucked up in order to be able to function in the chaos. Because let's face it, another thing that they have example, there is no typical day in a kitchen. There is no typical day in a tattoo shop. I've been around you, I've worked in tattoo shops. There's no such thing as your average run of the mill day at all. There's always going to be some weird shit, especially when you think, oh, this is a boring day, nothing weird is going to happen. And then all of a sudden, man, you just tempted fate and you have to be ready to not only handle it but to be able to thrive in that shit. And you and I both joked about the shit that we've seen in the industry over the years. So
We're making a transition, I think, in the last couple of years from being like strictly walk-in style tattooer to like just tattooing all custom and like appointment style tattoos. I see less of it. But yeah, no, it's still super part of it. Like it's just like working in the back of the kitchen. You might not see the full craziness they see in the front, but you get called out for the extra craziness. You at least get to witness the very, the creme de la
no, see,
creme.
that's my problem is my staff knows me and I'm the first person that they go to when shit is happening. And like, one of the things that I always tell people, especially, living in Oakland and San Francisco and shit, yeah, we had an incident. I was at my prep counter just working on shit completely in a different world, and all of a sudden I hear, Seth, we need you. And I ran out, and it was a situation out front. I didn't have to raise a hand, but I let's say I was a very calming presence and defused the situation without having to raise my hand. And one of my managers commented, yeah, because I went back in and started doing my prep work, and she's like, "How the fuck do you go from that to that back to that without
Oh
skipping
yeah.
a beat?" And I'm like, I always stay in gear when. I mean, let's face it, I take the subway, the BART from fucking Oakland to San Francisco 5 6 days a week. I always have to be on point. I can't ever be completely zoned out on my fucking headphones and shit like that because you never know what the fuck is coming through those doors at any given second, man. And it's crazy, but it's also, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
I
Oh
love
yeah.
it.
No, it's always interesting. It's always a good time, and like you're saying, yeah, part of the experience. It's a good time. But
Well, as
also,
many times as you've ever been out to California, we've never had a fucking incident where there was any risk to our safety. We've seen some weird shit, but
mhm.
it's, you've been out here how many times over the past 2 years? At least three or four. And we've
I used to
traveled.
live out there in that area though too a long time ago. I'm pretty used to Central and Northern California.
Well, and like, okay, just on that
What I'm
topic,
getting at is
because,
I like that type of crazy. That's my type of crazy. I'm not saying it's not crazy, but it's a good time.
well, just to kind of, I guess, transition topics, because this is definitely one of my favorite stories
Hmm.
involving you and I, because we were actually video chatting when this happened, and I would have loved to have gotten this on camera. But what was it like? It was, 5 years ago or whatever. I was driving through fucking Nevada and my engine blew. And all
Hmm.
of a sudden, I get stuck out in the middle of fucking nowhere. I get the car towed and, get a hotel or whatever. The next day, I call you and we're sitting
Hmm.
video chatting on Instagram. And folks, you gotta, I mean, this is Mike we're talking about. You've lived all over, you've seen the shit. You know, you're like me. It takes a whole lot of shit to phase you. But I remember sitting there going, "Yeah, I'm in some weird town, Winna," and you just looked and you're like, "Winnemucca? Oh my, dude, listen, go to the gas station, get coffee and cigarettes, and stay the fucking doors. It's nothing but meth and hookers." And it's probably one of the few times like you were genuinely concerned for my safety. You were like, "Oh shit, you're no, Seth, no, 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 do not pass go, do not collect $200." Because you know me, anytime I'm in a fucking random place, I have to go and explore. I mean, that's just like, but you were like, "No, no, no, go to the fucking gas station, get whatever the fuck you need, stay the fuck in your hotel, do not go outside, especially after dark." And I didn't heed your advice. I did go out during that day, and I've also got enough common sense to pay attention to the vibe. And I'm like, yeah, I see what Mike's talking about.
I might have an overly strange opinion of that town. The only time that I've ever
No,
stopped
you
through
don't.
there, it was maybe 5 or 6 years before that happened to you. And I was on a 40-foot tour bus with a tattoo shop built on the inside. One of my favorite characters I've ever traveled with. The owner of all, or the original owner of all the Blue Horseshoe tattoos. He's a really good tattooer and an interesting dude to fucking travel with. He's been everywhere, so he knows a little bit of everything like that.
Oh, yeah.
But we're driving through, and we have some apprentices with us. I'm not going to name them because they're respectable people. They don't need to remember this or be associated
I
with this
love it.
story whatsoever. So let's not mention those poor guys.
Oh,
So
yes.
so we yeah. So we're driving, and Bowman's like, "Hey, you guys ever been to a whorehouse?" And I'm like, "No, no, I haven't been to a whorehouse, Chris. I've never been to a fucking whorehouse." And the apprentice is
I
also like,
still haven't either.
"No,
So,
we're tattoo apprentices from Southeast Virginia. We've never been to a whorehouse." So Chris is like, "No problem. Check this out. We're gonna pull in, get a drink real quick. I'm gonna show you guys, like legal, because evidently he'd been to the Mustang Ranch and all this other stuff, like bigger, higher dollar stuff. But
well, of course Bowman has, because,
that's
yeah, he's
not what
Bowman, man.
that's not what this place was. Like, this in no way was the Bunny Ranch or the Mustang Ranch. Like, this was not it. This was, well, you've seen right. This is I guess, a gas station version of that. But like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we pull in, and I wish I could remember the name of this place, but we pull in right off the interstate side, the side of the shit, and the parking lot's big enough to accommodate the tour bus. Chris is like just businessman to a T. That dude's got like a golden tongue when it comes to like selling the idea of tattooing and shit like that. So, or just tattoos in general. So, like, he walks in, he's talking. Well, the owner of this establishment is not in town at the moment, so it was like the manager running the place. And then, so he's like, "Hey, could we have a tattoo shop and a bus?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "No, check it out. It's actually really nice." And then, the course manager comes out, and it looks really nice. Full tattoo shop. You've seen my bus before, the
Oh,
old bus.
yeah.
So it was a
Yeah,
full.
no, I've seen the photos and shit. I think I actually went on it once or twice.
Yeah, we brought it out. Yeah, we used to bring it coast to coast a bunch. But This was after I sold it to Chris, and he turned it into the Blue Horseshoe Bus. But so it had a little more chrome and a lot more neon at this point. So yeah. So they come on, check it out. They're like, "This is crazy! Hell yeah, you can set this up out front in tattoo." But at this point, the girls that work there are the only people that are coming out to get tattooed. It's the middle of the day, so they don't have a bunch of customers. I mean, a few. I'm not gonna lie, but not
Yeah.
like I guess normal customers. So now the bus is filled with like professional sex workers, and I've never at that point in my career I'd never been around and talked to anyone like that. So I was just honestly asking conversations, like being respectful, being like, hey, like how does one start this job? I know that like tattooing is also like an interesting. There's always like some weird story about how you got into it because they don't just offer this job to anybody, like you know what I'm saying, like. So like how did you get into it? And 90% of the stories where they started dancing in like usually Vegas, like several of them were but and then they weren't making as much money as they thought, and then someone approached them and offered them this like steal, and because they didn't have a criminal history or whatever, they could get the license to do it. And then what was really crazy to me, I'm sure it's just completely normal in that profession, or hopefully, or at least in that part of Nevada. Hopefully, it's not normal to a lot of people. But they had to stay on premises once they passed the health department check. They couldn't
Yeah.
leave the property for like 6 months or something while they were working, and then they didn't get paid until they left and finished the contract at the end. So they were essentially holding this woman's money and like not letting her leave. It was like pretty much being in jail. Like seemed crazy to
Yeah.
me. But there was a bunch of people that were on these style contracts there. It was pretty nuts. And yeah, so yeah, it was really fucking interesting. But yeah, no, I think a couple of the poor apprentices they didn't have as interesting of a time just learning about the industry and doing a bunch of tattoos. I think the owner made them go inside and bought them a bunch of like happy endings. Yeah,
Well,
glad I'm not into anything that they spike that
well,
stuff.
I mean, on that subject, though, I mean, you were there. We've known each other since, or what, like, 14 or some shit like that. I don't know, but
I think
you know,
13.
you something like that. I don't know. It's hard to keep track. But the point is, it's like, you saw me working in my parents' bars,
Mm-hmm.
and as people think, oh, that must have been horrible. You were exposed to all this shit when you were a kid. Your parents had a strip club and blah 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 blah. And it's like, no, it actually probably saved my fucking life because
Yeah.
while we were going to school and having, Wally McDumbfuck come up and try to explain drugs to us at the DARE program, I was literally seeing it in my life. Like I was watching
You could
people
see
at
the
the
negative.
bar.
Yeah, it wasn't it wasn't a discussion with a fucking giant mascot dog or fucking lion that made me not want to do fucking drugs. It was
Yeah,
seeing the effect of fucking people doing drugs, and I was like, oh no, not me, bro.
yeah,
I'm good.
yeah, exactly. Like working in a bar, I figured, okay, the cokeheads are fucking out of their mind. I don't want anything to do with them. I damn sure don't want to be a fucking drunk that comes in literally like clockwork every afternoon at 5:22 and sits in the same
Well,
fucking
no, or
spot.
even using, I'm not going to say any names, but even using like one of the guys you were talking about as an example, seeing a successful restaurateur, multiple owning restaurants, and then just being like fucking and throwing it all away because he wants to do fucking drugs. Like that's fucking crazy. Like, yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
but I mean, it's like seeing shit like that. Like that's part of the reason I started that. I stopped drinking is because I recognized that I was turning into one of those people that I absolutely
You good?
hated. And, it's not like anybody came to me and said I had a fucking drinking problem. No, I'm grateful as shit that I had enough self
I'm sorry.
awareness
Definitely.
to,
I
I
apologize.
saw the realities of that shit and it saved me a whole lot of, because let's face it, like I was drinking by the time I was 14. I was fucking partying hard by the time I was 15. But at the same time, I was able to kind of keep my shit together because of the fact that I was like, okay, this, and this is cool. The rest of the shit I don't want to have anything to do with. I mean, for fuck's sake, I didn't even try LSD until I was 30. Yeah, I mean, I was talking to
No,
another,
that's right. That's crazy. I was super into that shit at like 13 and 14, and you
and
never
see, I was
were.
always
Yeah.
scared of
I
that
used to come
shit.
over to your house tripping balls, and you were never into it. I totally forgot about that. Holy shit.
Well, and what's funny, and we can go ahead and talk about this shit right now, because the Hawaii article is coming out or whatever. Long story short, I actually ended up doing ayahuasca several times before the first time I tried LSD. And people look at me when I tell them
Really?
that, and they're like,
That's
what the
fucking
fuck?
intense. Yeah.
Well, but and it's funny as shit though, because long story short is you were there right after I started Culinary Anarchy in September of 2012. I, for some reason, like sent out resumes to a bunch of different places. You were hanging out that morning. One morning, this yoga center in the middle of the fucking jungle calls me up, interviews me for a position as a vegan chef. And then what? Within the span of like 3 hours, you had gotten me a plane ticket and were like, you got to go, you got to go, you got to go. So I
Yeah.
ended up doing this gig out
Well,
there
that was one of
and
the best
moving
things.
to.
Working out back and forth and being able to go back out for me in a similar time in my life was one of the best things for me. So I just figured it'd be good.
God, yeah, and it was absolutely. I was, it was one of the best things that ever happened. But I go out to the jungle and I'm doing this vegan yoga thing, and I start hooking up with some people, and the next thing I know, I'm being invited to an ayahuasca ceremony, and so through these connections, the next time I moved to Hawaii, which I also love this story. I'd gone back to Seattle. I was absolutely miserable. And this one chick, I was working up in Capitol Hill. This chick, gorgeous restaurant, but like literally bouncing checks all over the place. We were COD with our vendors, and she ended up owing me like three fucking grand. And so one Friday afternoon, check bounces, and I told her, and I'm like, listen, I'm not turning on the stove until you have my money cash, like right now. Like, I'm not doing shit. And like 45 minutes later, she comes and like throws an envelope with like 3 grand at me and looks at me and says, okay, now get your ass back to work. And I'm like, you know what? No, fuck this noise. Like, I'm done with this shit. And so I literally grabbed my skateboard and my knives and started skating out the dining room. And she's like, where the fuck are you going? And I looked at her and said, man, fuck this shit. I'm going back to Hawaii. And as I'm skating around the corner down Capitol Hill, I'm like, I got 3 grand. I'm on a month lease. I don't have much shit. And I've got people in Hawaii that say that I can come back anytime that I want to. So I literally went and deposited like all but like $500 cash in that, bought a plane ticket, and the next morning
Mm-hmm.
was flying out of Seattle to Kona. Get
Oh, yeah.
to back to Puna with my friends, and it's the same people that are doing ayahuasca ceremony, and so ended up doing 2 more ceremonies with them. And then about I guess a week later, we heard about somebody, and this I love this shit because, like I said, I had already gone out to the fucking middle of the jungle and I had done my ceremony, and it was, you know, from the looks of the aftermath of it, like when I woke up the next day, like it was messy, but it was like clear that I had taken care of myself and that it was a good time. It wasn't like the total clusterfuck that you would expect to happen. Like, I had definitely drank my water. I
Yeah.
had vomited in the right places and I was able to cover that all up and be respectful and whatnot. But me and my buddy had heard about this amazing LSD going through the jungle. And so one afternoon, we're hanging out there. We hear this car coming up through his driveway. And you got to understand, he lives in the middle of fucking nowhere. The driveway itself is like a 20-minute walk from the fucking road all the way up to the house. And it's one of his old buddies. And he's the one that just got back to the island. And he's got all this amazing LSD that we've been hearing about. So my stupid ass, I pipe up and I'm like, oh, I've never done LSD. And he's like, and immediately hands me fucking 3 pieces. And he's like, here, this is on me. Have a blessed trip. And my buddy's like, you sure you want to give him 3 hits his first time? And I'm like, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And so I took these 3 hits and I go out to a second story balcony and I'm sitting there and I'm fucking chilling and I'm looking in the back and it's this jungle landscape that is a complete kaleidoscope. It is all kinds of fucked up. And I'm just sitting there just like this. And after about an hour and a half, my boy comes up to me. He's like, yo, man, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah. Why? What's up? And he's like, I took a hit and a half of that shit, man, and it's fucking crazy. How the fuck did you take 3 hits and you're fine? And I'm like, because I'm chilling. Like, I mean, because my logic was it was a chemical induced trip. No big
Mm-hmm.
deal. It was, and I was in the middle of the fucking jungle in Hawaii. I had no obligations. I had no responsibility. I was around people that I trusted. I had food. I had water. Like, there was like literally the most idyllic place on earth to fucking do LSD for the first time. There was literally no reason. It's not even like they're jaguars or anything. Like the biggest threat would be like a wild hog, and I was on a second story balcony. If I'd seen a wild piggy come out of the backyard, I'd have been like, "Hey, piggy!" But yeah, no, I like I said, I did ayahuasca several times before I actually tried LSD. But then,
Yeah, I would imagine LSD wouldn't be anywhere near or even have the potential to be kind of terrifying if you've already done DMT. Because even like
yeah,
real good DMT trips are still slightly terrifying.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't
Maybe I'm
really
putting that the wrong
remember.
way. They're just so impressive that it's yeah.
I legitimately don't remember that much of my ayahuasca trip because the first time that I participated, I was helping out with other people doing their first time, and I still took the full dose. And but I was able to consciously be like, okay, none of this shit is really real, and I'm still here in
Mhm.
this situation. And I was kind of able to like ride it out, I guess. But then
Yeah.
the second time I did it is like I said, I go back and I'm like, okay, first time wasn't really what I needed. I need to come back, do a hard reset before I start my little like jungle adventure and live in Hawaii or whatever. And so I literally just went out in the middle of the jungle. It's probably like 200-300 yards away from his house, but I think he owned like 5 or 6 acres out there, and set up a fire pit and then set up another little hole for me to shit and vomit in, and brought out water and took the fucking 2 ounce dose of that shit and sat there by the fire. And again, I really don't remember that much. I remember coming through it on the other side and feeling refreshed and recharged, and also like beyond fucking exhausted, like absolutely. But it was like, literally like being reborn.
Yeah.
And I won't say that it wasn't amazing, but again, like I can't, like I don't remember talking to extra dimensional beings. I don't like. I just, like I said, it felt like a rebirth, but again, like it wasn't one of those things where I'm like, oh, I took ayahuasca, I'm suddenly enlightened. It's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm kind of a piece of shit, and I have a lot of work to do in this world before I'm not a piece of shit. I think that that was kind of my realization, because I think that that was also at the same time, like, I ended up working on the farm in Hawaii. That helped, ground and humble me as a chef and give me a deeper appreciation for the things that I was working with and shit like that. And I think that it definitely did, it made me aware enough of my own ego to make me want to strip it away. And I think that you can say over the past 12 years, I've become less of an asshole. I
Oh
hope.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah. Hmm. I never associated that with doing DMT, but me too, probably around the time. Yeah, and I feel you. It definitely makes you a little more like I think accepting of
Well,
maybe just everything in general.
well, I mean, that was kind of the weird thing, though, is like when I went down there last month, that was something that I was like absolutely sniffing out for, because, you know, for those that don't know, the town that I was living in, Pahoa, was pretty fucked up during the lava flow about 6 years ago, back in 2018. So the yoga center that I was working at the time, completely devastated. Like, there's nothing there, but there's a little like signpost called end of the road. So just out of, I don't know, respect or whatever, I had to go down there, get down there, and it's this what the fuck? We'll have to post a photo of it, like guardrail, and then it's lava that just like you can still see the yellow lines, but it's these like giant patches of lava that have flowed over the road. And it was, I mean, you have to understand, 12 years ago, I was flying down doing, 30 miles an hour down the hill on my longboard on this same road going to this yoga center and shit. And I'd seen this in Yellowstone, where, you start to see the saplings and shit kind of coming out of the devastation of the wildfires. And it's part of the natural process. And especially in Hawaii, more so than anything else. But yeah, like when I'm out there and you see the photos, man, I mean, it looks like another fucking world. But then all of a sudden you see these little dots of purple and green all over the place, and you see that life is already starting to take back over this like completely barren landscape.
Hmm.
And I was tempted to go and like try to GPS and like walk through the lava fields to try to see if I could get down to the yoga center, but I like when I looked at it, it was like a mile away, I think, from where I was, and it was already getting dark. And for those that don't know Puna and Pahoa, like they refer to themselves as Punatics. It is definitely not the area that you want to be a tourist in and show any level of disrespect. It's jungle rednecks are a special kind of rednecks. I love it down there. I've always had a blast down there, but yeah, like do not come down there with an entitled attitude at all. God help you if you do. Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah. What's crazy is you actually got to see a lot more of like actual like Hawaii. I've only hung out in like Oahu and like the super touristy or like military neighborhoods type shit because that's always who I went to stay with was like my brother or like Ryan used to let me come out there all the time, and that was pretty cool to hang out with him because he's way more of like local scene. But yeah, usually when I
Well,
was out there, I was hanging out with my brother, so it was all super touristy military stuff, and then during the day I would just run around the island and just see what was up. But that was just Oahu, so, which was great. Don't get me wrong, I'm not downplaying at all. It was a great fucking time. But yeah, there was no like fields of ayahuasca or yoga centers or anything like that. It was all like what you see on like TV tours stuff. Hell yeah! Well, we should take a quick coffee break too because I'm out of coffee, and then we can come back and rehash it out for the rest of the safety meeting because we've only really I don't know how safe we've been during this meeting. We should probably get a little safer too when we come back.
I think we should because yeah, I got to piss and definitely refill on the coffee.
All right,
So
so brief intermission, and we will finish
sounds
this.
good. I'll see you in a minute. All right, welcome back to the safety meeting. We kind of lost track of what the fuck we were talking about, but then we got started talking about people on social media and the fact that like as a writer, public figure, whatever the fuck you want to call
All
me,
right, what would you say?
it,
Any type of entertainer, artist, or do you want to say like most people like any type of fame whatsoever? You're always told, don't read the comments or whatever. It's fun, crazy, and it's wild because see, you made a career out of reading and responding to like the craziest fucking psychotic, right wing
oh
comments you could possibly fucking get.
well, and people ask me how I do it, and it's like, man, I mean, this is why they legitimately know me by name at several cannabis dispensaries. I mean, they know me by name at Seven Stars, they know me by name at Mission Cannabis. Yeah, but the truth is on that though, it's like I have to triple check just about everything I do because it's not even just my fans that I don't want to mislead or anything like that. It's the fact that I literally have hundreds of people that are waiting to pounce on my ass over any slight mistake. And there was, uh, even this morning, I posted this thing. It was the Konami code. It had, nuclear codes written on top of it. And the caption was, if Trump tried to sell classified documents, it said, if, okay, this one motherfucker that is always coming on there and just typical, can't show his face, whatever, blah blah. And he's like, he didn't say that or he didn't do that, da 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 da. You can't offer proof, you coward, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, the post clearly said if, okay, it's not my fault. You can't fucking read, man.
Yeah, this wasn't a news reference.
Mm-mm.
This
No,
was
I
just
mean it was satire. It was a parody. That's why it clearly said if, and I mean that's just like they don't fact check me, and then they don't fact check anything that motherfucker says, and then they demand like these people come on to a page called Culinary Anarchy and are demanding answers from random people about why is this. It's like, dude, you obviously have internet. You can go and find your own answers. Like, why are you coming to this random page trying to understand, this kind of shit? Like, it's, I don't know, man. Some of the shit that I have to deal with on a daily day basis, like, this is why I have to get up in the morning. I have to go outside, have a cup of coffee and a smoke, and then I check. Because if I start looking at my phone first thing in the morning, oh God, no, no, no. It's also why I get up at fucking 5 o'clock in the morning half the time because It's like the only 15 minutes a day that I have that is actually like peaceful and quiet and not full of bullshit. But I mean, you have kids, so you have to deal with that shit nonstop. So I'm lucky to be in my situation. I have no right to complain. I love my life. It's just colorful at times, very very colorful. I mean, it's what's funny though is the fact that okay, I've got less than 54,000 fans. I don't have that many in terms of great numbers or whatever, but I will tell you this about my fans. You've seen this in the comments section. My fans are absolutely savage. And I was watching this nature documentary last week and it was showing these bees. I think they were in Japan or some shit. I don't know. I was high. But this giant wasp tried to invest or like fucking bust in the beehive, and these teeny tiny little bees dogpiled this motherfucker, even though this wasp was like way bigger than them, and literally like just like dogpile him to the point that he overheats and dies.
Oh, I know what
Okay.
you're talking about. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, that is pretty cool, actually.
But I'm sitting there literally watching this, and it's like you've seen the Leonardo DiCaprio Once Upon a Time in Hollywood meme where he's like, yeah, oh shit, oh shit, I just pulled my fucking neck. Oh god, that. Ooh.
Telling you though, it was worth it. That was the perfect Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh fuck. Oh fuck that
Yeah,
man.
you know you have to stretch before you Leo every time, bro. Come on, you know that.
Oh fuck no, that could be bad. That could be really fuck. But the fuck. The point
After
is,
that.
fuck what. The point is, that's my fucking fans because there have been plenty of times that I've gone in the morning to like teach a class and I'll make a post and then I'll go teach a class and I'll be offline for like 2 or 3 hours because, yes, motherfuckers, I have a life, I have a day job. Not going to say where, we'll talk about that next, in fact, but like I'll come back and I'll see these troll comments and all of a sudden it's like there's 15 responses and they've blocked the page. And it's literally just like they've made, one of these trolls has said some stupid shit. And before I even have a chance to respond, 15 or 20 of my fans will go in there and just like laugh his ass out of the fucking page.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one that I love this every single time is when people who clearly don't understand algorithms get pissed off that my stuff shows up in their feed. It's like, well, you've been commenting on similar stuff. So the more you comment on these liberal pages, the more like, and it's amazing too because you've been there with me on the weekends. Okay, you were there with me in New Orleans. My legitimately one of my favorite fucking activities on specifically like Saturday and Sunday mornings, instead of reading the comments or the comics like we used to when we were kids, I get up and I read the comment section of my post because every single fucking time, because keep in mind I can read when these people made these comments, and it's these angry motherfuckers between like 2 and 5 a.m. going fucking off because they're not getting laid that night. And like, I legitimately, Saturday and Sunday morning, I'm sitting there just laughing my ass off at these people that are supposedly grown ass men losing their fucking shit over a meme.
Yeah. Oh, did you see the extension I got for the nectar collector?
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah,
Speaking of
it's like
which,
a
I need to
fucking
smoke another
it's like
fucking
a
joint.
dildo scepter.
I wonder how much. Well, I mean, as long as we make sure that when we post this, it's not suitable for kids, because this podcast is whatever the fuck it is.
Oh yeah. Well,
Just,
if me taking dabs on a podcast is not acceptable, then we'll clip those part out. Or I'll even put like an actual dildo over top of what I'm hitting. That's way more acceptable, right?
you know when I really realized that things had gotten fucking weird and I had gotten bougie
Mm-hmm.
is the day that I went into a cannabis dispensary and they did not have the brand that I was looking for. And I was like, oh, okay, no thanks. And I walked another few blocks and went and found another dispensary. And kids these days, they do not remember, because it wasn't even that fucking long ago that you and I were having to wait for our dude in Seattle. And we had a good dude. Like,
Oh yeah.
X was
Well,
literally like,
Well, back then I didn't even use your guy all the time because the Craigslist there. This is when people still use Craigslist. This is how long ago it was. But I could just go on there and type in 420 or extra meds, and then I would go to the college district and buy like some of the best weed I've ever seen off some college kid for like $200 an ounce. Like it was not a bad deal. I felt bad for the college kid because I pulled up in a nice looking car. Remember that whether it was the suit? Yeah, I pulled up in
Oh
that
yeah, you
nice, like,
scared the
brand
shit
new
out of that
Subaru
kid.
STI with the windows all tinted up, and then they just hop in the passenger seat, and I'm all like face tatted up, fucking crazy. They're like, "Oh my sweet lord, I'm gonna die," and I'm like, "No, no, you're fine. The weed smells good. Here's the cash. Count it." Like, they just look terrified. I'm like, usually it's the other way around. You think people can be scared of the drug dealer, and they're just like, "Oh God, what have I?" Like, no, no. Most of my
Oh
pets,
god,
they're all just cartoons. They're not dangerous guys.
no. Well, I mean, fuck it. He ain't gonna watch the podcast or whatever, and I'm not gonna use last names because honestly, I don't remember. But because you did, I think you met, yeah, you met Doyle and Joe or whatever the fuck at one point. But so when I was living in Seattle, I was like mid 20s, whatever, and I ended up like taking a couple of these military brats under my wing. They were 18. They had just moved to Seattle from like SEAL career or whatever the fuck, and these kids were like very, very sheltered, but very eager to experience the world. And they were always having to buy weed from me. And so I'm like, God damn, I got to teach these kids how to fucking like buy weed on their own. Like, you're 18, you can go figure it the fuck out yourself. You don't have to buy from me all the time. And so I remember taking them out to Pike's Place
I'm just
Market.
gonna stop you right there. I'll never interrupt you, but you definitely presented like that. Like you're like, listen, dude, I only sell weed to kids. Once you turn 18, you're kicked out. Like I won't sell to you anymore. Like you're out of the nest.
No,
No, you definitely presented it like you're like, listen, bro. It's like I only sell like fake weed. The prices are all jacked up. I only sell to kids. As soon as you're fucking 18, get the fuck out.
oh my God, no, 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 no,
I'm just
no.
saying,
Good.
it's funny, and I know that's not the case, but I just had to throw that out there. That's
Well, I'm no, I'm glad that you interjected that. No, because they were friends with my dishwasher, and I fucking felt bad for them because they like all these kids would do was play like I think it wasn't Minecraft, it was like World of Warcraft or some shit. I don't know, man. Like, you know,
I'm
it
crafting
was
fucking
yeah, like I felt like they were kind of like dogs. I would have to take them outside and make sure that they got like fresh air and shit on a regular basis, and they were good kids. Like I
yeah,
will say this, I still.
stereotypical dishwashers.
No,
We were stereotypical dishwashers. I understand.
exactly. But so I decide that I'm gonna take these kids out and teach them how to fucking buy a bag of weed at Pike's Market because that's a pretty simple process. You just kind of like walk around and look at some people, and then somebody's gonna come up. At least this is mid 2000s. Somebody's gonna come up and offer you a bag of weed. So standing across the street from the main park at the far end, and I go, all right, cool. Like 5 minutes, get a fucking dime bag, come back over. I'm like, see how easy that was? And so this one kid, very awkward, nerdy, shy kid, I said, all right, here's $20. Go do it. And he's like, all right, I got this. And so he goes, and me and this other kid are standing on the other side. He starts talking to this dude, and we're like, hell yeah, he did it. And then he comes walking back across the street, and he's got this real, like, concerned, like, scared look in his eye. And we're like, what the fuck? And he looks at us and he's like, guys, I think I fucked up. And we're like, what do you mean? And he opens his hand and it's these two little rocks. And immediately my reflex was like, smack it. I'm like, no. I was like, what did you
You
say?
don't buy crack or meth in Pike's Market. No.
I was like, dude, what did you say? And he's like, I asked him for a 20. I was like, did you specify a 20 of what? He's like, nah. I was like, gotta specify what you want, man. You gotta be specific. You gotta be specific. I was like, okay, lesson's over for the day. So the other one, because if I'm gonna incriminate myself, I mean, I think statute of limitations has run out. It's been over 18 years, whatever. They're both still doing well and successful because But the point is, they asked me to take them on their first mushroom trip. Okay, and I know this sounds horrible. This sounds horrible. I know this. But at the time, I was working at this bar and this dude that I was buying weed from on a regular basis. I had been over to his house for barbecues. Like, him and his wife are cool as shit. Comes up to me and he's like, dude, I've got these psilocybin pills. They're the best fucking thing you will ever try in your life. You have to try some of these right now. You're going to have a great time. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, freebies, no problem. This dude's a reliable source. Never had anything, like, the dude's legit. You know what I mean? So I go home and I pop these things, and oh my God, it was fucking amazing. Absolutely fucking amazing. So kids, oh, we want to do it. We want to do it. We want to do it. So I was like, all right, cool. The universe is provided. We're going to do this. But before we did, made sure that we went to the store. We got all the supplies that we needed, drinks, all that shit, blah, 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 blah. And then still even came back and we smudged the apartment, and they all took their dose and I took a nice little half dose because, well, I can handle my shit or whatever, but I wanted to like make sure. And legitimately, like, most of the time they fucking sat there and like stared out at the backyard. I mean, legitimately, like, and they had a great time. Well, somehow through, I guess, social media or whatever, word got back to Mama Bear. And I'm like driving to work one afternoon, and all of a sudden, unknown number calls me on my phone. I answer, and it's this woman that is screaming because I am giving her baby drugs, and she's going to call the cops on me, and blah, 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 blah. She's going to ruin my life. And I'm like listening to this woman, like, just go on a full on rampage for like a minute or two, and I'm like putting the bits and pieces together of, oh, okay, so you must be so and so's mom. Okay, okay. And so finally, like, she ran out of steam, and I'm like, ma'am, you should be thanking me. And she's, what? What? Why should I be thanking you? And I was like, okay, listen, okay, take a deep breath. First off, your kid came to me. Second off, I love your kids. Okay, they're good kids. I would never let anything happen to them. If I had said no, they would have gone and gotten God knows what from God knows who down at Pike's Market, because I'm thinking about the other one at the time. I'm like, oh yeah, like, these two are not smart enough to know what the fuck. And so I was like, I made sure that they were in a safe environment. I made sure that nothing happened to them, and they had a great time. But you know what? You can't really call the cops. Like, I'm telling you right now, if you try to call the cops, they're going to roll their fucking eyes and hang up the phone on you. And like I said, you should be thanking me because I made sure that your kid is safe, because they could have taken God knows what from God knows who and like walked into traffic or something. Like, who the fuck knows? Like I said, these two kids were, I'm not going to say that they were stupid. They were 18. Like, there's a difference between being stupid and 18, even though there's, but like I said,
you got a mom that cares, That's cool.
well, no, she. I think after I calmly talked some sense into her, a couple of light bulbs did go off in her head, and I'm like, listen, like, you got good kids. They're out here. They're going to school. They're doing their shit, but they're in Seattle away from home for the first time. What the fuck do you think is going to happen? I'm making sure that they're at least safe. Like, I'm the one that's, driving them to the concerts and making sure that they, like, they're good kids. And I'm just trying to be like somewhat of a big brother because they seem to fucking look up to my stupid ass. I mean, talk about low expectations or whatever. I sure as fuck ain't a role model, but I never in a million years would I've let anything happen to these idiots. You know what I'm saying? I mean, same thing with a lot of my dishwashers. I mean, it's I don't have to like my staff to be protective over them. I mean, even going back to the social media thing, these random assholes that are demanding explanations and things like that, like, that's why I've got the debate button. It's like, dude, if you really want my time and attention, we can bring you on to something like this where you come on and you got to be willing to show your face, put your name and reputation on the line, and I'll sit there for $300 an hour and talk to you all fucking day long. But this is my time. I got 24 hours in a day. I'm going to do what the fuck I want to with it. I don't feel like just saying and repeating myself over and over again on a position of mine or a post that really isn't up for fucking debate. It's like, I made a statement. I didn't make a statement and then said, tell me what you think. Like,
Yeah.
fuck you. Like, but I mean, let's face it. you know the people that I'm talking about, and these are literally the same fucking dudes that are the reason why I have to walk my wait staff out to their cars at night because they don't want to take no for an answer. Well, but why? But why? Why don't you want to talk to me? Why won't you answer my questions? And it's like, they want to go back and forth, and it's like, no, no means no, motherfucker. But they can't seem to, like, I don't know if it's something wrong with their fucking frontal lobe or what the fuck. Like, some of these people I want to look at and be like, were you this miserable because you've always been unfuckable, or are you unfuckable because you've always been this like, how does it work? Am
I
I
think you're
phrasing
right.
that right, or am I just high? I mean, you get the point.
Yeah. No, yeah, I get what you're
No, it's not.
saying. Yeah. On that note,
Uh,
we got to take a quick break again, real quick. I'm going to hit the restroom,
all
and then we'll
right,
come back and rediscuss.
all right. Oh yeah, because I'll tell you about Kansas. That was a fun one.
All right.
All right, let me spark this motherfucker up.
Yeah.
But we were talking about
Yeah, ready to go.
places that you shouldn't necessarily visit, and we talked about Winnemucca, Nevada. Definitely someplace that I never ever want to set foot in again. But there was also an incident a couple of years ago. I was going through Kansas, and if you've been through Kansas, you know damn well that it's literally miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and nothing but cornfields. So, I've been on the road since like 6 a.m. It's starting to get a little bit like dusky or whatever about 5 o'clock, and I'm like, fuck, I need to pull over. I'm getting tired. Let me go ahead and get a hotel. So I pull into the next random fucking spot, get a cheap motel, and get to my hotel room, take a shower, and I'm like, you know what? Let me go take a walk. Let me go check out this town. Let me go get a burger or something like that. I'm hungry. And so I go down to the desk. I look at the lady. I'm like, yo, where can I go get a bite to eat? And she's like, well, there's a gas station across the street and there's vending machines around the corner. And I'm like, no, I want to go out and get like a burger or something. Where do the locals hang out? And she looks at me and she says, no, sweetie, you really don't want to be out after dark in this town. And she wasn't saying it directed it to me like she felt that way. She was legitimately looking out for my safety. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it was like grandma saying, no, 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 sweetie, don't run across the street. You're going to get hit by a Mack truck. Like, and just the way she said it was actually more intimidating than if she had said it like she didn't want me. You know what I'm saying? Like if she was angry at me or some shit, but like she was saying it, like that scared me worse than if she had said it. And so, yeah, I went to the gas station, I got a burrito, and I went the fuck back to my hotel room and didn't go out that night. Like, that's one of the few times that, aside from like Winnemucca, that I just was like, nah, I'm not doing this shit.
But now, this time in our life, we wouldn't have the. That's what I'm saying is it played out cool when like we were teenagers or in our 20s, but at this point in time in our life, when would you have a week or a week and a half to dedicate to get from one place to another? Either
Oh
like,
fuck that! No, I'd rent. I mean, I would do it if I had the time and the money. I would rent a car. Like I would much rather rent a car to come back out to Virginia and see you if I had that much free time and could afford the hotels and shit like that.
yeah,
That's like if this podcast gets big, like, yeah, I hate flying. I mean, aside from having to fly to fucking Hawaii, goddamn well, I've never looked forward to a flight in my life. I try to avoid them. And the only reason I started flying was 4.5 years ago. I was getting out of New Orleans, had to come back to Oakland, and it was $300 for a fucking bus ticket, but it was only $70 for Spirit Airlines. Now, granted, it was Spirit Airlines, but it was $70 versus 300 and a 3 hour trip instead of like a 3 or 4 day trip. So, of course, I took Spirit Airlines. And let me tell you, that trip too, especially had in flight entertainment because let me tell you about this trip because this was why I will never take Spirit Airlines again. Get on the trip, and there is this woman, and she is pilled out of her fucking mind.
mm-hmm.
And her 5 year old is feral. Okay, completely fucking feral, doesn't give a shit at all. And I just like I've been around long enough, I can tell. So as soon as I see this chick and her kid, I'm like, oh, these gonna be the two. And they, of course, get sat down by Bob and Edna from fucking Akron, Ohio. Like, legitimately the whitest fucking couple that I've ever fucking seen. I mean, these two look like they should have been extras in a fucking movie, okay? Of course, this chick and her kid get sat down right behind him, okay? Now, I'm going to watch how I phrase this, okay? Just because I don't want to offend anybody. But the point is, this kid predictably starts going apeshit in the middle of the flight and starts kicking the fuck out of Bob and Edna's chairs. But these two people, because of the situation, are fucking petrified. They don't want to say a fucking thing. And it was
Yeah.
actually the flight attendants that came up, didn't say anything to the woman, did not say
Yeah.
anything to their kid, simply came up to Bob and Edna, who had been putting up with these kids literally just fucking boop, 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 nonstop, and said, "Hey, would you like to move up to a different seat? We feel like you'd be a little bit more comfortable." And all of a sudden, this woman starts screaming about how she's Rosa Parks and she's being discriminated against, even though she's not a part of this conversation. They were not addressing her
Yeah.
or the kid. Okay. They're being very polite to Bob and Edna. And keep in mind, this woman and the flight attendants had a lot in common. Let's just say that, okay, in terms of their background. So the Rosa Parks thing was not flying at all. And you could see the look in these flight attendants because I will give credit to the flight attendants on Spirit Airlines. They were very, very polite, but you could see the hood in their eye and you could see that they were ready. As soon as that switch got flipped, they
Mhm.
were more than happy to handle business. Unlike United, where they might get intimidated by a situation like this. Oh no. Spirit Airlines, their flight attendants, perfectly fucking like, if you're ever on a flight and there is some sort of incident,
Yeah.
Spirit Airlines flight attendants are the flight attendant equivalent of fucking bouncers, man. Like, those
It's
people are
like
fucking not only ready, but they are eager. So, of course,
like the Waffle House of
oh
air.
yeah, I mean, they legitimately are. And that's why, like, it sounds like I'm talking shit about them, but no, no, no. They have my absolute fear and admiration. So, of course, we land, and as we're landing, it's, the buckle your seatbelt thing, and this feral child is still running back and forth. And I mean, I'm like probably 6 or 7 rows. I'm like having to look back and watch this shit, and this kid's fucking beaming up and down the fucking rows.
Yeah.
And we land, and of course, the pilot gets on, and he's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure this is going to come as no surprise to you, but the air marshals are going to be joining us to help remove a passenger. We at Spirit Airlines appreciate your patience while we take care of this shit." And like, was just like the most fuck you on earth. It was so impressive. So they finally let us off. And I mean, of course, air marshals come up and the woman is screaming and they drag her the fuck out of there. And of course, she's screaming how she's Rosa Parks and, you know, get out into the terminal at LAX, and this woman is literally like, they got her in handcuffs, but she's on the floor. And if you didn't know she was in handcuffs, you would almost think she was giving a breakdancing performance. Because meanwhile, there's a gathering of air marshals and other security people watching her, just hoping she's going to exhaust herself. And meanwhile, the little kid is just circling, running the fuck around this crowd as we're trying to wait, and then get right back on the same Spirit Airlines and had to fly to fucking Oakland. Didn't have the same in-flight entertainment, but let me tell you something, man. That was, yeah, the $70, man. $70 well spent.
Oh, that's
I hate
wild.
flying.
$70 for the air ticket. Yeah, I've never tried that. But it's not just that doesn't just happen on Spirit Airlines. I want to say it was the time that I almost missed my transfer flight one time in San Diego when I was on the way to come see you, and we were in Santa Cruz still, and
Yeah.
so that was American Airlines, I believe, and this was like two 16-year-old like super Midwesty like white girls, and then their mom,
Oh.
and they were like just like like teenage girl yelling at each other crazy.
Oh
But I guess
God.
it
Yeah.
was enough
No.
to the point where they had to call the air marshals also. And when they took us back to the gate, it was after we were already, I mean, like engines fired, ready to take off, and they were just not calling the fuck down. And I thought that they were random strangers about to fight, but evidently they were like the same family or whatever who
Oh
fucking,
Jesus Christ.
white people fucking problems. Who fucking knows?
Yeah.
So as they're on the way out, the mom already looks slightly disturbed and like she's been having a bad time. So I figured it would extra help if the guys with tattoos on his face was like, great parenting, lady.
God damn. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Yeah. So it happens at all airlines. Don't you fucking worry. It's strange
Well,
everywhere now.
well, but see, like, here, another prime example of how fucking weird social media is. Okay, you got kids. I love my nephews. You know that, I'm sending them shirts from Hawaii. I'm doting on them, da 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 da. But as I'm sitting and getting ready for my flight to Hawaii, I go and I sit down waiting for my flight, which has been changed from a 10 a.m. flight to a 7 a.m. flight, which means I've got to get up at fucking 3, whatever. I sit down, and all of a sudden, this family comes and sits down right behind me. And they got a 3-year-old that just starts screaming right behind my ear.
Mm-hmm.
And that morning, sitting there at the gate, getting ready to go on my vacation, all I posted was, I wish that I could pay extra for a kid free flight. That, not me saying that I hate children, not me saying that children should be banned from all flights, me saying literally, I will pay extra for a flight, even if it's a fucking red eye flight. I don't give a fuck when it is. For me to not have to deal with this shit. I'm not saying ban kids from the airport. I'm saying that once I get on that flight, as stressful as it is for me to have to fly, I'm willing to pay an extra 150 bucks for me to not have to deal with a screaming child or some shit like what you're talking about with teenagers,
No,
or
that's what I was
literally
getting at.
anybody that can't be
I was in business class when that happened. I was like one row back from the first class when this happened. Like
like
literally, like
if you're gonna act up as if you're gonna
so
act up on a
almost
flight.
because remember that's when we came out. And we rented the freaking Mustang converter, all that dumb shit. So I'd upped the flight. I was like, for sure I'll get there on time because we have to be there to fucking pick up that fucking sports car rental car and all that dumb shit. No, dude, I almost missed the flight even with the expensive ticket. It happens no matter where you
But
sit.
again,
There's assholes everywhere.
well, but that's the thing though. Again, all I posted was, I will pay extra. I'm not trying to ban
You know,
kids from
you're still
airports.
fucked. You'll still get
But
fucked. Don't pay extra is
oh
what
yeah,
I'm saying.
no, but no, here's the thing, is not only that, it was the amount of hatred that I got from people complaining about how much I apparently hate kids, and da 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 da. It's like, no, I don't hate kids. Kids I look at as being wildlife, okay? I don't want to be around them up
Perfectly okay
close.
to
Okay?
feel like that as long as you're not saying that like about your own kids. Like if you don't have kids, you can say that in general about all kids. It's perfectly fine.
But there's a big difference between, like, I'm just not a person that wants kids. I made the decision as an adult to never have kids of my own. To me, like, hating kids, because God knows if somebody was to like raise their voice or hand at a kid, I'm the first one to speak up. But like I said, all I said on this post was, I'll pay extra for a kid free flight. And the amount of venom that was spit my way by these people telling me I'm such a horrible person because I'm willing to pay extra to be on a flight with people that have to be tried as adults. Like, I'm willing to make it worth the airline. It's the same thing as bars. I prefer to go to places that don't allow minors, because if I'm going to spend my money, I don't want your little fucking snot goblin come running around, and you might think it's cute, but when they're screaming and I can't have a conversation with a meal that I'm paying a shit ton of money for on my one night off, yeah, no, like, I'm not saying your kids should be banned. I'm not saying the kids should be outlawed or that they're bad or anything like that. But, some places, I love dogs. I don't want dogs in every fucking restaurant that I go into either. Do you know what I'm saying? And I damn sure don't want most dogs coming running up to me unless you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
no, no.
but that doesn't mean that I fucking hate them. Like, just because I don't like something doesn't mean I hate it or I want it banned. I don't drink, but you don't see me saying, "Oh, all alcohol should be outlawed and banned and burn the stills." And fuck that. No, I don't know. Just don't drive drunk and don't come around me if you've been drinking, man. It's really that simple, man. Don't fuck up my life because you're fucking buzzed. Real simple. And that goes with any substance. I don't give a fuck what the substance is.
Mm-hmm. Nah, I feel
As
that
I'm
way.
smoking a joint. Fuck.
Is there anything else you want to add before we sign off then?
I think that's it, man. I mean,
Oh
we'll
yeah,
see y'all next week.
next week.